this really is probably more so in terms of you being able to screen when somebody else is not ready for a relationship. But let's take a minute to talk about you for a minute. When you are still hung up on someone else, you're not ready. If you find yourself overly comparing, I mean, I'm saying overly because it's human nature to compare. Even if you've been out of a relationship several years and you've had several years of experience of waiting in between, you're going to compare some things. But if you're just constantly comparing, you're not ready. You're not ready to be in a relationship. Now, I told y'all in part 1 about my situation, and I've been thinking about this as I watched the video a couple of days since then. But so I'm going to go ahead. I didn't give you a name before, not of the girl, but of the woman, of the guy that she was kind of still in love with. This guy's name was Wesley. So I don't know where I was at the time mentally, but she gave me all the clues that I needed to let me know that she wasn't over her ex. Every time I turned around, she was like, Wesley this and Wesley that. And something should have dawned on me that she was still hung up on this guy. Watch for that. If you are getting to know someone and they say that they're interested in you and you know their ex's name by heart because that's all you keep hearing, that is a really good sign that they're not over the person. And if they're not over the person, they're going to end up using you. Oh, yeah, they're going to end up using you. And you don't want that. People have a tendency of gravitating towards you to help them to get over a person that they really love. That person might have cheated on them. That person may not want them anymore. That person, and they have no choice. Many of us have had to move on because somebody didn't want us. And of course, if somebody doesn't want you, you've got to move on. No matter how hurt you may be, no matter how devastated you may be, you got to move on. You cannot hang around and allow yourself to be dogged out and used. You're going to have to move on. But you need to find out and figure out when you meet somebody new, are they clear? Are they in between in terms of how they feel? Are they free from the previous relationship? And you find that out by watching and listening. Again, I missed all the signs. I don't know what I was thinking. Every day she was talking about this Wesley nut, this guy, Wesley, and I didn't catch it. And I figured that I could, hey, let me just take the time, treat her nice, love her, and maybe she'll, she should come around. Give her the old Darryl Cherry treatment, the cherry charm, and she'll come around. And that didn't work. And those of you that missed part 1, I told you it was like many times she said, I'm on my way over, and she never ended up making it over. When somebody is attaching themselves to you, but they're still attached to someone else, that other person is going to get priority whenever that person calls them. So I believe she was on her way to my house. Wesley called. Boom. And dealing with guilt. She didn't want to let me know what was going on. So I'm sitting there waiting. And I'm like, okay, where is she? I never hear from her. So as I said in part 1, one day I went and I said, let me see what's going on, because I knew where Wesley lived. Now, she claimed that whenever she would go by there, that she was real close to Wesley's grandmother, and she kept saying, when I go there, I'm not going there to see him. I'm going there to see Wesley's grandmother. Yeah, right. I took her for face value. I took her for a word. So one night she was supposed to be coming over. So she never showed up. I never heard from her. So I went over there late. I drove past it. It was real late. Lights, Wesley lived up in the second floor part of it. And all upstairs was dark. And I realized that, and I saw her car outside, and I said, okay, I realized what's going on. Look at the signs. If somebody that claims they're interested in you that you can't track them down for a certain period of time, you can't get them on the phone, or if you get them on the phone and somebody calls and they tell you, I'll call you back, and it takes a minute for them to call you back, you need to understand that there's some history there. There's something going on, and you're placing yourself in the midst of being used. We all want, most of us want relationships. Most of us want to feel love. Most of us have a desire to be with someone. I mean, it's a great thing to want to be in a relationship with somebody. But I'm just telling you, and maybe you could agree from experience, why force something before it's time? Why force something that's not right? Why force something that's going to bring greater pain in your life? You don't need that. You don't need it, and I don't need it. It's just like a car that's being put together on an assembly line. Each station that the car stops at, it has to be, something is being added. And all of that is for the total product. So by the time it gets to the end of the line, you have a total product. In Spartanburg, South Carolina, the BMW plant is there. And they allow certain people, so if you're getting ready to buy a BMW, they allow you to be able to go and you can watch this car that you picked out being made. It's such an awesome experience. And after they make the car, they have a track outside, and you're allowed to get in the car and take it around the track. And it's just an awesome experience. Imagine being in a hurry, getting something off the line that's not totally completed. Again, I know you want to move forward in a relationship, but there's certain things that God needs to do in you, and there's certain things, more importantly, that God needs to do in them. You take anything off the line before it's time, you're going to have problems with it. And that's one of the things, you can't rush this process. And many times, God wants to get that person together. But many times in our rush, we don't end up trusting God enough to wait for the completion. We just take it right off the line. And you get people prematurely who have not gone through the total assembly process. You don't want somebody who's stuck on somebody else. You might think you can pull them totally. You might think you might be able to pull them totally eventually, but it doesn't always work out that way. You never know where somebody is. And you end up setting yourself up for hurt. So let me hear from you all tonight. Have you experienced some of the things that I've been saying? Have you experienced having somebody in your life, but they were hung up on someone else, and you realized that they weren't into you at all? Have y'all realized that? Have any of you been through that? And what were the signs that this person was preoccupied? Again, somebody already said, yes, indeed. Deborah just said, yes, I've been through that. Deborah Jackson just said, yes. What was it that you did not see? Diana Carton said, I've experienced. Let me see what else you're going to say here. What is it that made you miss that they were caught up still with somebody else? While you're answering that, LaSandra said, what if you're married and your spouse walks out on you for someone else? That is one of the most devastating things that can happen to someone. And I am so sorry if that has happened to you. It's happened to a lot of people. You can't make anybody be with you. You can't make anybody love you. And you're going to have to, it's an individual situation. It's something that you're going to have to deal with God about. Some people have said, you know what? I'm not going to let the enemy take this marriage, and they hung in there, and the man came back or the woman came back. You'll have to seek God for yourself on that. I don't want to tell you what to do. You've got to go by what you're feeling in your heart as you pray and you seek God. But I don't want anybody that God has to force to be with me, and he's not going to do that. He's not going to force that person to be with me. But what he can do through prayer, if that person is at a point in their life where they're ready to make a change, he can help lead them and guide them back to their family. Every situation is different. Many people are posting their situation, and you can sort of read for yourself. But you're going to have to seek God for yourself regarding that. But in terms of somebody begging somebody to be with me, I wouldn't do that. I'm not begging anybody to be with me. Whatever you start, you're going to have to finish. If you beg them for them to come back, and for some reason they felt sorry for you and they came back, it's only going to be a certain amount of time before they probably go right back out there. So let me look at some of the things here that you're saying. Winter says, know your worth. Jermaine says, I met someone who claimed God sent her to me, but she lied, man. And that happens as well. And she had some kind of agenda. It was a temporary agenda. And of course, she was discovered. One thing that you will discover is that whatever somebody has an agenda, it's going to come out. That's what I'm telling you. You slow your roll. You kind of don't give them everything. You take your time, you observe, and you pray. When somebody goes down underwater, they can go down underwater for a couple of minutes, but after a while, they're going to have to come to the surface. So if somebody is acting a certain way, they're pretending, they're holding their breath, I'm telling you, give it a minute or two. Eventually, the real them is going to surface because they can only hold their breath but so long. Let's see. Jermaine said, how can I tell she's cussing, won't admit she's wrong? But that's a whole situation, another situation there. Normally when people start cussing and stuff, they're trying to cover up some guilt. And when they're really angry, when you call them on something, that 9 times out of 10, you called them correctly. When you bust somebody out and they get furious on you, that lets you know that you got them. I mean, that you've hit a nerve. Diane Blackburn says, slowly take your time to get to know the person. I totally agree. Definitely should do that. Natasha says, I should have sensed that he wasn't the one when he got upset over something materialistic. A lot of times we'll make some excuses, and we'll do that. Jermaine said she claims she loves God. She can love God. Many of us do love God, but we can be different places in our spiritual walk. This spirituality and living for God is a process, and there's certain things that I'm delivered from that you're not delivered from. There's certain things that you're delivered from that I'm not delivered from. It's a process, and it doesn't mean per se that I don't love God or that person doesn't love God. There's certain areas where different people need to be delivered from. And so loving God really, a lot of times, doesn't have anything to do with it. It's where they're at in terms of deliverance. You can love God and still be immature and not be able to handle a relationship. Remember that. You can be saved and still not be able to you're still not delivered enough to handle a relationship. So you need the salvation thing, understand it for what it is, but you've got to see where that person is. There's different levels of deliverance. And again, it could be an area where they're not delivered. A person can love God and still be out there. Jermaine, I don't know why I'm focused on you tonight, but we're gonna focus on you, man. I think it's a good thing here. Yes, I exposed her and she hates me for it with a young boy and 47. Okay, yeah. Jermaine, are you still with her? Let me know. Are you still with her? Sharon Morgan said some people have an agenda with you and not want you for anything but sex if you give in to their needs. That is so true. Okay, she's 47, Jermaine is saying. Sharon Morgan is absolutely right. Flesh wants flesh. And that's usually one of the first things that they're going for. And that's one of the things they're looking to get those needs satisfied. Hold back on all of that. Don't jump into bed. I'm here to tell you, don't go out of your way to please this flesh because it's going to fail you and it complicates everything. You sleep with someone. That is, and I've said this before, but I'm going to say it again just in case we have a new audience. Sex is a can of Febreze and a blindfold. I'm going to say it again. Sex is a can of Febreze and a blindfold. What do I mean by that? You've seen those Febreze commercials where they blindfolded some people and they put them in an environment where everything was stinking. It was garbage all around, but they sprayed Febreze and they didn't realize that they were in a nasty, dirty environment because they were blindfolded and they were led into an area that had been pre-sprayed by Febreze, and the scent overrode all that garbage that was around. You've seen that commercial. That's what sex does to us. Sex covers our eyes, and it takes away our true sense of smell. We don't know that something's not right. We don't see that something's not right because sex is covering up our senses, and you're dealing with the person now on a whole different level because you join to them spiritually. Yeah, even those that you don't marry, you join to them when you sleep with somebody. Men, when you enter into somebody. Ladies, when you allow somebody to enter into you, even with the condom on, there is a spiritual thing that happens. There's a connection that happens, and now your senses are all off course. The area has been sprayed. Where normally you'd be like, something ain't right. Something ain't right. You know, if you could see, a lot of times if you look and see certain things, you'll know something ain't right. But again, if you're sensitive, if you're covered by sex, you're blindfolded and that area has been sprayed. So you don't know what environment you're in. And that person leads you into their nasty, stinking environment that they pre-sprayed and that they blindfolded you and brought you in. And you can't even judge. You don't even know where you're at. In that Febreze commercial, them people had no idea there was trash all around them because everything was altered. And having sex with someone. Let me ask you all, have you ever had sex with somebody on a continuous basis? And you had to think about it after a while, like, am I in love with this person or not? You can't find yourself you can't find yourself being without this person, but you realize something ain't right. This person's dogging you out. Some of you have taken these people back over and over again. They're sleeping with other people. They're cussing you out. You can't get them on the phone. They're treating you like trash. But the sex has altered your ability, one, to be able to pull away, your ability to be able to tell that this ain't right. You sleep with somebody, you create that bond. Are you ready to be in a relationship? Are you ready for a relationship? I say and this is something that you can think about on your own even as we sign off and when we sign off. If you find yourself not being able to keep your body, so you find somebody that you like and you give it a month or two or whatever your process is, and the clothes come off. You feel that you have to give them your body as being a part of the relationship. If that's how you flow, like it or not, you're not ready for a relationship. See, the thing is, and the reason why you're coming to me and not necessarily Steve Harvey or somebody worldly, or that talks about relationships, is because if you're watching me, I take it that you love the Lord Jesus Christ. I take it, if you're watching me, that you want to do things differently. I take it that if you're watching and listening to me and reading some of my posts, that you want God to be in it. And anything that you want God to be in, it's got to be done decently and in order according to what God would have for you. Giving your body is not it. I'm just telling you. I know some of you might say, oh, well, you're married now. But my wife and I had to make the decision that we were not going to be sleeping together before we were married. We weren't going to be. We made a decision. And it wasn't an easy decision. But we knew we wanted God to bless our marriage, our upcoming marriage, our relationship. It's hard to do, but you can do it. It's always good. I'm going to say this before I get back to the when you're ready or not ready for a relationship. It's always good to be able to have some friends around, people that make you accountable. If you know that you don't place yourself in situations where you're alone. All right, now let me go back to what some of you are saying. God bless you, Jermaine. I appreciate you, man. If you've been around when I was doing the radio program, you've been around for a while. Latasha said it's called transferring of spirits, and it's true. You're transferring spirits from the people that they're sleeping with. You're joining together with them. B. Michelle Du Bois said, how about to just hang out but don't have a relationship? Is that possible? It's possible, but if you like this person and you kind of know if you're kind of liking this person or if this person likes you, now you're putting yourself in an atmosphere that some things can jump off. And so you've got to watch that. And many of you have done that. Again, if you are in front of a barn that's filled with hay and you take one match and just light it and throw it in there, don't be surprised if it go up and it's a bonfire. Many of us do that kind of stuff. We throw a little match on something and I don't know what you expect, but again, if you play with fire, it's gonna, So in terms, if you are going out with somebody, you kind of know what you're doing. I mean, you're feeling the person, and you just need to be careful. All right. Jermaine, so you knew? Okay, Jermaine said he knew me before I was a pastor. Okay, bless you, Jermaine. Mary Reese is on. So that's what I'm saying tonight. I'm going to come back and do a part 3. I'm going to go more in depth. I mean, it's been a long day for me, but I hope something that I said will help you. Again, like I told y'all in part 1, listen to the person. Anybody that you're interested in, take time to listen to them and see what they're saying. When that girl came up to me, it was Wesley. She kept talking about this guy. That should have been a sign. But I thought that the attention that I was going to give her would override the Wesley thing. It didn't. Because she came to me because Wesley had kicked her to the curb. When people are in that situation, normally, as soon as they get a call back or a text, they're going back. Let me say this other thing. Y'all remember when I made a joke about, in part 1, about a man, a woman taking on a man. You got his teeth fixed, You helped him out, and then he took off. Maybe this might have happened to you all. Maybe, and if you be honest tonight, when you've been hurt and you've been rejected, it's a devastating thing. You start to look at yourself and try to say, man, what was it about me? What is it about me that they didn't like? What is it that I need to do? And especially if you find the person that they left you for and they went to somebody else, you look at that person and you say, okay, let me see what they got that I don't have. And it really messes with you. So as soon as if you're still hung up on that person, you might realize this is true. As soon as something positive comes your way, many times you immediately go back to them to see if they'll take you back. Let me give you an example. Somebody left you. They got somebody that's, maybe their body's a little bit better than yours. Now, all of a sudden, you hit the gym. You're hurt. A lot of people that go to the gym are hurt. They're just working, trying to get that body, in place. Now, when you feel good about yourself again, you try to go back to try to say, okay, here I am. Take me. I'll see what you think. Or if you get a new car, or you something tremendous, something different has happened in your life. Maybe another person has helped you to try to help you get over them and help you get your self-confidence back. As soon as you see a window, if you're still caught up with them in any kind of way, you want them to see the change. Now, if you don't really care or don't have a connection, you don't care what they think. But if you find yourself, whatever new situation that you have, going back to them, I think Kathy agrees with what I'm saying, going back to them to show them, then you know that you're not over them. Y'all remember Eddie Murphy did the same thing. He was tore up in Boomerang. He was let down, got with Halle Berry. She boosted his confidence. And as soon as he got his confidence back, he went right back to Robin Givens. He went right back to her once. And people have done that to us. So, ladies and gentlemen, you're going to have to really watch this process. Let's see. Jermaine said, one thing I learned, nothing wrong looking for love online. But if she or he is looking for money or love, then they are lazy, get to stepping. Yeah, I agree with that too. If somebody is asking you for stuff up front early, you need to watch that. You realize that something ain't right. If they're asking you for money or what have you, you need to watch out for that. They're trying to use you. So, ladies and gentlemen, again, watch out. And like Jermaine said, for red flags, the red flags could be many different things. You've got to listen. You got to make sure that your heart and mind and soul are clear. In order for them to be clear, you got to make sure that you're straight. Because if they're not clear, you're not going to be able to judge correctly. If they're not clear, you can lead yourself into a world of hurt, something that you're not ready for. If you're not clear, you won't see the signs. I didn't see the signs, and as a result, I was hurt. I didn't see the signs, and as a result, she latched on to me for a certain period of time until Wesley called her back. How many of you have been through that same situation? You thought this person was really into you, but you were an in-between person until that other person called them back. They only left because they had no choice. That person didn't want them for a minute. And they thought, some people really think that they like you, but they don't realize until that person calls them and they rip and run over there. Some of them don't realize that they're still not over that other person. but you'll be able to gauge it as you pray and as you watch and listen. When Eddie Murphy got into Halle Berry, he didn't realize because he was really grateful for Halle, and he started caring for her and having feelings for her. He really didn't realize that he wasn't over Robin until she called. You missed that. You missed that right there. You missed it. Go back and watch the movie. I'm going to say it one more time. He did not realize that he was still hung up on Robin until she called. And as soon as she called, boom. You remember when Halle was working on the painting in the apartment, and Eddie had just got out the shower and he was feeling good and all that, and he was talking to Robert on the phone, and it was something I can't remember exactly what happened, but it was almost like he got a boost, and he was like, you could just tell that he was so glad to hear from her. And he kissed Halle in the cheek and act like he said he had to go. But that was a big sign that this woman, that he was still attached to Robin Gibbons, and that, that was a big sign. So, again, try to save yourself from some of this hurt by watching, praying, and taking your time. What's the rush? Why bring in a mess? Why do that? Watch what they're doing. Watch what they say. They're going to tell on themselves. The name Wesley is going to come up. I'm telling you. Listen. Listen. On your first couple of dates. Say, hey, what you been doing? Just ask some questions. How long has it been since you were seeing somebody? How was that relationship? If somebody's over a relationship, if they're over it, you'll be able to tell in the way they speak of that person, the way the conversation will flow, and they'll want to, as quickly as possible, get back to you because their interest is in you. If you're sitting there and 10 minutes have gone by and they're still talking about Wesley, you know what I'm saying? And you're just kind of, oh, okay, you're just listening, just act like you nod, woo, yeah, oh, and they're going, and they've forgotten about you, and they're going on a tangent. I'm helping you right here. Deion Blackbird said that's a red flag. Christy said, right? 10 minutes have gone by. You're just sitting there chilling. You're eating your lasagna or what have you. You're eating, and they're like Wesley. Yeah, and he told me, and and you're just listening and you're checking them out. I'm telling you, they're not over that person. Watch their face. Watch the words that come out of their mouth. What did Chris Tucker say? Do you understand the words that come out of my mouth? I'm telling you. See what they say. See how they flow with it. They're giving themselves away. And once you see the signs, it's going to be up to you what you're going to do from here. Do not go under the false pretense that you can pull that person when they're still conflicted. I'm going to say it one more time. Don't think, I don't care how good you may think you are, how good looking you think you are, how intelligent you think you are, how fine you think you are, how much pocket you think you have. Don't think that you can pull this person when they're conflicted, when they're stuck on someone else. Dave Cruz Jr. from Colorado Springs is watching. God bless you, sir. When they're hung up on someone else, if you pull them, sometimes it's only going to be temporal. Because as soon as they heal, as soon as you help them get their body together, as soon as they get into the gym, as soon as they get a new car, as soon as they get their teeth fixed, As soon as they get whatever something new, they're going to run back to try to get that person. Say, see, look at me, I'm different now. I know you rejected me before, but watch, look what I got. I got a brand new car. I've done it. I get a brand new car. They rejected me because I had a raggedy car. As soon as I get another car, I drive past, hey, all right, let's see how this works. And I might say all day, I don't want them back. But again, anybody that you're done with, you're done with. You don't care what they think. You're like, bygones. I got my teeth fixed. I'm going to flow with my new teeth with someone else. I'm not going back to prove to them anything. All right, now my wife said a couple of things that I want to try to make sure I zero in on. Let's see, my wife said, or if they act like they don't want to talk about them. Oh, baby, that's good. Now, that's my wife talking. In your dating conversation, if you see that they're flustered, I don't want to talk about the person. I can't, that's another sign that they may not be ready for a relationship. I could go right back. My wife's in another room, but I can just go right on back through the line and just say, okay, let me just tell you about so-and-so and so, because I'm over that. But if I find myself at a place where I can't talk about it at all, with no emotion, then I'm not ready. Now, think about this. There could be emotion if there's kids involved. You know how we love our kids. We know that divorce and breakups and relationships when you have children are very tough, can be tough on children. You could be upset with them because of the effect that it has on your kids. That's understandable. You could be upset because of whatever, whatever the connections and the things the deals that you got to deal with them regarding the kids. That's cool. But watch, there's a certain kind of being upset and a certain kind of not wanting to talk about them because of the kids versus how you're feeling about them. So, baby, I thank you so much for bringing that up. That's a good point. Marsha Giles said, I had 3 men try to use me to get over their exes. So glad I caught on early. Marsha, give me a couple examples of how you could tell that they were trying to use you to get over their exes. How did you find out? David Cruz Jr. says, from New Jerusalem Missionary Baptist Church, Colorado Springs, in the house. Glad you're here. Let's see. What else? I'm looking at some comments. Christy Wheeler, I'm going to be working on a book. I've got to finish this, 2 projects I need to finish. And as soon as I'm done, I'm going to start working on my book. And I'm going to make sure I get it out there, okay? So keep praying for me. It's going to happen. I'm going to get it together. Thank you for asking. A lot of people have been asking, and I just need to get a couple of things under my belt, and then I started it, but I need to get back to it. All right, Caroline Haithcote is watching. Hello, Alvina. Let's see who else. Deidre, God bless you. Marsha, like I said, yeah, that's good. They talk about their exes constantly. Yep. That's one of the great signs. Yes, B. Michelle, we're working on it. That's one of the biggest signs that they're not over the person. I'm going to say it one more time for effect as we get ready to sign off. If you become attached to the person, if you allow yourself to become attached to the person that you know is not over somebody yet, you're not helping them and you're not helping yourself. And one of the reasons why you allow this to happen is, like I said in part 1, you've let whatever your needs are supersede the reality of the situation. I'm going to say it again. One of the reasons why, if you find yourself attached to someone who you know blatantly is still hung up on someone else, is because you've let whatever thing that you're missing in your life that you are desperate to fill, whatever need that is, you've allowed that to take priority over the reality of what you're seeing. If you have a sexual need, it's going to override what this person is telling you. Some of y'all have the person's crying in your arms about somebody else, and here you go loving them. You just take them right on in. This person is just crying over somebody else, and you're ignoring all of that because of your needs. If it's a sexual need, you'll do it. If it's an emotional need that you need filled, you'll do it. If it's a need because you're lonely, when you feel that you can't be lonely, you're going to do it. You're going to gravitate. I've done it. I've got laid in somebody else's arms and cried. Maybe I've cried, but I was like, oh, I really love this other person. And the other person, they're just holding me and stuff. And I'm like, and years later, I look back on it and I'm like, man, this person was so desperate to get their needs fulfilled. And I'm not just talking about sex, to get whatever their needs were fulfilled, that they totally ignored what I was saying to them, or they thought that what they had to offer was going to be different, and that it was an isolated situation back in the past, that they could change what I was feeling. You're not God. All right? I'm just telling you. You are not God. And if you try to play God, you're going to find out quickly that you are not God. I'm telling you. So let's see, what else here? My wife's talking to Bobby Fly Hardy. I will say that they're not either ready because everyone is going to be compared to their deceased spouse. The hardest thing to do is to be in competition with the deceased person. I missed Bobby Fly Hardy's thing there, but I believe what my wife is saying is absolutely right. If you want to take about 10 more minutes, I'll take about 10 minutes, 10 more minutes. Y'all want to stay with me? Y'all can stay with me. If you have to sign off, I understand. I know it's late. Yeah, I know, Jermaine. I know. I've got the max is 5,000 friends. But let me address. I didn't see what Bobby Fly Hardy wrote, but I can see what my wife wrote. If you ever run into a situation where somebody had a deceased person, a deceased husband, deceased wife, they were in a relationship with somebody, they were in love with them, and they died, and eventually they have to move on. That's a really rough situation, and it's a rough situation. I know somebody who her husband died. They cremated him, and she had his urn with the ashes, on the mantle in the bedroom, and it was, she was trying to bring different people in her life, and how do you compete with the ashes? How do you deal with that when they're not ready, when they don't even, they haven't let the person's clothes go, their items, are in the house. That's probably a whole different a segment that we need to talk about. That's a hard thing, and it takes a lot of time. You've got to figure out where the person is. And Bobby Fly Hardy, my wife, like I said, answered that. And I don't know if this is your situation. Again, I missed your post. Please forgive me. But that's I'm probably gonna have to do another segment on that because there's so much to that. But if this is you, in time, you will, if that's for you, if it's for you when you're ready, if you feel that in the future that you will be ready for love, it takes time, but it can happen. It can happen, but it's a lot to process. It's a lot to go through, especially if the spouse was an awesome spouse. It's really hard because you're going to end up comparing. Alvina Gibson said, compare past relationship with new relationship. Think they're going to be retreated. They're going to be treated the same as in the previous relationship, refusing to let it go. Compare the past relationship. They think they're going to be mistreated. The same thing. Okay, I can't really have to come back and look at that so I can get that in this context. But ladies and gentlemen, that's it. I hope you all have gotten something from this tonight and understand that this life, when you meet somebody in a world like this, they've already been with someone else. The thing is, are they ready, truly ready for another relationship? Then you need to find out, are they ready for a relationship with you? You got to understand, everybody is not for you. I'm going to say it again. Everybody is not for you. There's a process that you need to find out. Again, when somebody feels that they're ready for a relationship and they come to you, it doesn't necessarily mean that they're ready for a relationship with you. And some of them won't know it until they get to know you. And that's why you can't rush anything and they can't rush anything. Take your time. All right. So I thank you all so much. Are there any questions that we might have missed? Like maybe short questions that we might be able to answer before we sign off? God bless you, Alvina. Domestic violence survivor. That's tough too. Okay, Dion. Is there any questions anybody have before we sign off? Anything that you want us to address? Lori Verrett says, take as much time in a relationship. I agree. What's the rush? Really, seriously. What's the rush? It's not worth rushing. When I drop my car off to be repaired, I try not to do anything that's going to, make this person. I don't want them abusing and taking time because I need my car back. But as soon as they talk about we're going to rush, I'm like, no, don't rush. Don't rush. I want my car right. And you rush, you're going to get something back that's not fixed. I love you all. Thank you all for coming with us. If God gives us something else for part 3, we'll do a part 3 and we'll talk about it. Christy Wheeler says, what about people who sleep together after the first date or any date? That's always bad. Some people, I've heard 1 or 2 situations where somebody slept with somebody on the first date and they end up married. They've been together 20, 30 years. That's an exception and it's not the norm. Many times you sleep with somebody on the first date. What are you going to work yourself up toward? What are you working toward? And again, that person's may not be able to trust you. Somebody said, what is your thoughts on Pastor John Gray saying women should wife up and not just be a girlfriend? I don't know. That's I don't want to. You put me on the spot here. I don't know. I don't know. Let me tell you about how I feel. Let's just John Gray. Woo. We all teach. We all give our own interpretation. Just because somebody's on TV, everything that they say out of their mouth may not be 100% correct or right, or their views on everything may not be right. Just because I'm live on TV, I'm live on Facebook, doesn't mean I'm right in everything. But I will say, some things are just sound bites. They sound good, You get the crowd, you say one of these, these little sayings, and everybody, whoa, yeah, all right, brother. But when you try to live the sound bite, you realize that it's not totally correct. A relationship is what it is. You've got to get to know the person. It's not about just marrying somebody. You got to make sure. There's so many things you've got to make sure that are right. You remember Denzel in the movie Flight about the airplane? Denzel had to get, before he could get into before he could take off, even in bad weather, he had to get out and walk around the plane to do an inspection before you take off. I look at marriage, before you take off the ground into marriage, you've got to do an inspection. The inspection is outside the plane. Okay? Now, there's some things on the inside, you make sure that, in the cockpit, of course, you're looking at. But the first inspection is outside the plane. So, meaning that you don't sleep with the person. Meaning that you don't rush to take off. Meaning that you take your time in all kinds of weather. Get to know the outside of the plane. Find out, walk around. Do an inspection before you go inside. Before you come talking about taking off into a marriage. Because once you lift the ground, that's the equivalent of you saying, I do. Once you lift off the ground, whatever is wrong, you've got to pray that whatever's wrong is something that can still be managed for you to get back to the ground safely. You mess around and there's something wrong that you missed, that you could have caught before you married this person. Once you lift it off the ground, you're committed to the flight. You got that? Once you take off, you're committed to the flight. And you better hope that whatever goes wrong up there in the air, that you can get back to the ground. Thank you, baby. You know how God works with me. That just came to me. That just came to me. How many of us did not do a proper pre-flight inspection? Remember I said you miss things because of your needs? If you feel that you're late, you're seeing everybody, all the other planes taking off, and you're just sitting on the runway. You see other people, your friends getting married. They're meeting somebody, planes are taking off everywhere, but you're sitting on the runway. If you can't get a grips about your particular flight, you're responsible for your flight. You're responsible for the plane that you're the captain of. You are, can I get a witness? You're in charge of your plane. Can't get caught up in anybody else taking off. Your deal is making sure that what you got going on is flight worthy. And if you feel that you're in a rush because you're seeing what other folk are doing, or if you have you got to feel that you need to get someplace, you're in a hurry, you're in your own personal hurry because of your own personal insecurities. Our insecurities drive us to marry folk we don't have any business marrying. Our insecurities pushes us to hook up with folk we have no business hooking up with. Our insecurities make us latch on to folk that are no good. We latch on to bad planes. And it makes us rush to flight inspection. All right, that's good enough. Ooh, I see flights taking off. I got to get in the air. How many of us have taken flights like that? You got up in the air and it crash landed. That person went south on you. Things that you should have caught, or you probably did see in the pre-flight inspection, but you nixed it because your priority was to get up in the air like everybody else. Did y'all got that analogy? All right, ladies and gentlemen, that's it. That's it for tonight. I pray that you got something from this. If you have any individual questions, feel free to inbox me. I get a lot of mail, but I'm going to try within the next several days to address whatever questions that you may have. Winter said it crashed not even 3 months after getting married. Yep. And Winter, there's probably some things that could have been caught in a pre-flight inspection if you'd have stayed on the ground just a little bit longer and not rushed to get that plane in the air. I love that analogy. Bless God. I love that analogy. All right. God bless you all. Good night.